Welcome to First. I'm Shirley Min, along with Mark Eichman and Nichelle Polston. The art world was rocked a few years ago when the Delaware Art Museum sold paintings to pay debt. Did it work? Has the museum been forgiven? We'll take a look.
Take a look down the DuPont Highway and you'll see the changing face of the Delaware economy. We'll stop off in Dover along with our content partner, Delaware Today magazine.
The Drumline is the perfect way to connect music and education. Sit back and enjoy the beat of these future musicians produce. First, your public media news magazine starts now.
After selling 4 works of art, the Delaware Art Museum is debt-free and looking ahead. The museum announced its 2016 exhibition schedule, and in this week's First Look, we take a look at the lineup and life after a punishing couple of years. Last spring was a dark time when the Delaware Art Museum's Board of Trustees decided to sell art from its collection to pay off $20 million in outstanding debt.
We have an endowment that is close to $22 million right now. Had we used that to pay the debt down, then we would have been short on operations, and we would have had to close the doors.
The museum sold William Hallman Hunt's Isabella and the Pot of Basil, Winslow Homer's Milking Time, Alexander Calder's Black Crescent, and Andrew Wyeth's Arthur Cleveland. Permission wasn't received in time for us to show you the last 2 copyrighted works of art.
It was just a really heartbreaking decision that the board had to come to. And I don't think there's a person here that believes they did it unnecessarily.
Critics didn't see it that way, and industry groups blasted the decision. The Association of Art Museum Directors imposed sanctions, and the American Alliance of Museums stripped the Delaware Art Museum of its accreditation. The translation, outside art or exhibitions, is limited.
There's certainly no denying that several projects are on hold, knowing that exhibitions are there are key objects that we need for those exhibitions that we can't get.
But Chief Curator Margareta Frederick says museum goers aren't missing out, since most museums, including this one, only display about 2% of their permanent collections.
Our collection is 12,000 strong, so just looking at this gallery, you can imagine we can't possibly have it all up at once. In fact, the iterations are almost infinite.
Some of those iterations are now part of the 2016 exhibition schedule. The pre-Raphaelite art of Marie Bartley Stillman kicks things off. Stillman was one of only a few 19th century female artists.
She's beautiful works of art, and we're going to showcase 40 of them, many of them in private collections, so people have never seen them, or at least not since her lifetime.
A lot of people would come to me and I guess you're going to be cutting back, and no, we're not.
Quite the opposite. Miller says the museum's spending more as it focuses on increasing visitors, members, and donors.
People come because there's a reason to come, so they'd stop coming, and then there's a death spiral. So we're doing more, get more people in there, get people excited about it, and we're starting to see it.
Compared to last year, attendance numbers through October are up 17%, and membership is up 6%, Miller says.
I think that's a statement that we're doing the right things.
Like updating the Kids Corner, expanding their hours, and adding more social programs to the calendar, like hip-hop and food trucks. Close to 2,000 people turned out for the event, closing out the museum's successful Dream Streets exhibit, which showcased the talents of artists in Wilmington from the 70s and 80s.
There is a real wealth here in the community of things that don't get out much.
A show that might not have ever happened if it weren't for the sanctions and the creativity of museum staffers. Slated for March, over 90 works of art will make up an exhibition called Our America, the Latino Presence in American Art.
It comes from the Smithsonian Museum of American Art, and it is absolutely sensational. It's all kinds of works of art, paintings, drawings, prints.
Delaware is one of the show's many stops. The Smithsonian knows all about the sanctions, but is honoring an agreement made well before the drama unfolded. A statement from the Smithsonian read, "We oppose any museum selling parts of its collection to pay the bills. The exhibit is not a collaborative effort between the Smithsonian American Art Museum and the Delaware Art Museum, but is an exhibition wholly conceived and organized by the Smithsonian." While questions remain about how much longer the AAMD and the AAM will drag out its punishments,
I think we all feel like we're on the way out of the dark, and we have a really good future ahead of us.
and a long future, Miller adds, that does not include the sale of any more art. The AAMD says sanctions will remain in place until its Board of Trustees decides to lift them, but there's no set waiting period. As for the AAM, Miller says the museum's board has had some preliminary discussions with them about what needs to be done to be accredited again. Follow our continuing coverage here about the Art Museum on First and at newsworks.org/Delaware.
Every election season since 2010 has brought us reminders that Christine O'Donnell upset the Republican establishment. And there's something eerily familiar this time around, too. So let's bring in Rob Torno, who can tie this all together for us. Rob, thanks so much for joining us.
No
and you
sweat.
have your Christine O'Donnell for
Yes.
United States Senate shirt just for this segment.
My prized possession. Yeah, when Christine O'Donnell ran in the primary against Mike Castle, many didn't give her a chance, of course, but that was when the Tea Party really had that giant wave, that anti-establishment, anti-Obama mentality, and it really threw out establishment people like Castle, and that election was so pivotal because Republicans could have had control of the Senate had one or two seats turned like that. And I think it sort of indicates the kind of support that Trump's getting now, right? Like, these are the people that are now supporting him. So I think they're sort of always going to be linked.
And really the reason a lot of people liked Christine O'Donnell is similar to the reason people like Donald Trump. They're not establishment. They're not elected officials. They're not politicians. They're really from the outside.
Yeah, I mean, I think Trump's a little bit different, right? Because people like him because he's authoritarian, right? People who hate government somehow want like a tyrant running things. But you're right, like they're both come from sort of this outside. And in fact, any time an establishment candidate or anybody, even Mitt Romney, attacks Trump, it works to his favor because people just view it as, oh, here's the establishment.
That's evidence that they're picking on him.
And in fact, Christine O'Donnell, you know, her book had, you know, the subtitle of her book, Troublemaker, was How to Make America Great Again, you know? So it's just, they have this sort of bond, and it's going to continue through this election.
We'll see how it plays out in November. Rob, thanks so much for being here.
No sweat.
And you can catch Rob Torno on Twitter at Rob Torno, and you can see his cartoons at newsworks.org.
Coming up on First, make room for Red. The Rehoboth Art League knows how to get attention for their latest show. It's a bold, bright experience later on First. And speaking of bold, check out the kids from the Drumline. They are the perfect mix of music and education.
Last spring, WHYY presented 100 Mile Monument. It focused on the history of the DuPont Highway, which we know as Route 13. The road is home to many big-name businesses as well. And as part of our content partner series with Delaware Today magazine, we stop in Dover to see how the roadway is still shaping Delaware's economy. If you drive along Route 13 in Dover, you may have noticed several new businesses springing up. There's a new Starbucks where Sonic Burger's drive-in used to be, and there are several new dining options too. But hidden among those national chains are two family-owned businesses that have stood the test of time.
We've been here since 1971, 45 years.
John Zimmerman is president of Jen Moore Florist on Route 13, a business started by his dad, a business he hopes to pass along to the next generation.
I have nieces working here now. I have two granddaughters that are coming here on the weekends with my daughter. They're real young right now, but they're very smart with computers and stuff, so I expect maybe at some point they'll be involved.
During Jen Moore's 45 years, Zimmerman's seen many small businesses along Route 13 come and go.
Well, certainly a lot of the small businesses, you know, went under, especially when the big box stores like Walmart came. You had a lot of hardware stores and specialty stores that didn't survive the recession.
But as of late, he's seen a big change on the horizon.
Now there seems to be a resurgence, and from North Dover to South Dover, Dover has been expanding and a lot more retail on the highway and right off of the highway.
According to commercial real estate agent Dan Wham, regional and national chains are starting to take note of the heavily traveled stretch of Route 13.
I think the Central Delaware Chamber of Commerce has done a good job getting the word out about Dover. Certainly, with the workforce, with the air base and Kraft Foods and some of the other larger businesses, it's a good economy here.
Down the road, Dale Teat of Earl Teat Music Store believes Delaware's distinction as a tax-free state also helps.
The no sales tax is a big deal. That is something that Delaware seems to try to hold on.
Earl Teat Music has been around since the 80s. With 2 locations in Delaware, one in Dover and the other in Delmar, Teat says his location on Route 13 is paying off.
The exposure that we have actually being on the highway now, I don't know what the amount of cars that goes by every day, but it's a lot of cars that see our sign that are interested, that maybe if we hadn't been on the highway, wouldn't know there's a music store even here.
Teat says the easy access to Route 13 is another plus, especially since his family-run business has had to relocate numerous times as Dover's business environment changed.
Back when we were in the Blue Hen Mall, you had to go into the mall to see us. When we were downtown Dover, you had to go into downtown Dover to see us. The shopping center, if you were not in the shopping center, which was set off the highway, you wouldn't see us.
It also helps that his business is patronized by other local businesses.
We've worked with Dover Downs in particular a lot of times with some of their celebrities they've had that needed what they call backline. We work with Harrington Casino. I've supplied them with products as well.
Teat believes even more eyes are going to be on his business now that new stores are moving in.
Our particular location already, directly across the street, there's been a vacant Walmart store for years, and someone I think bought it last year or whatever, and as you can see, there's stores popping up in there and other major stores.
Here with us now is Kim Hoey. She wrote the companion article in Delaware Today. Kim, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Your article was so interesting because Dover Air Force Base, the universities, they've been around for a while. So why are we now seeing such a boom?
Well, I really think it's not by accident. It was all by design. Everybody in Kent County, all the groups, the chambers of commerce, the business development people, the businesses people themselves, all got together and said, we're in a recession. It's bad, but it's not going to last forever. What can we do to position ourselves as best we can when we come out of it? And that's what they did. And now we're seeing the fruits of that.
And you know, when you think about what's in Dover, and I think your article really brings it out, you don't realize how many big companies are out there that are offering high-paying jobs to people to live in Dover,
right.
and they're sort of the people who are fueling all these businesses.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you have somebody who's making a good living at Kraft or Edgewell or Ooze and Oots, which I probably mispronounced, they live in the area, and then they're going to be shopping there and going to these restaurants and spending their money. So yeah, and then it's a good feeder area. I think they say 40,000 people a day come into Dover. So.
And I think for a little while, Dover was kind of looking a little bleak. It was. But it's so much better now.
Oh, it's great. Well, like I said, I stopped at the Starbucks and there was a line out the door, and people are like, "Oh, this is my office." We live here.
So is this it for the boom, or is there more coming? Because I know the sports complex is getting ready to open up. We've got that technology park, so more businesses in line.
Yep. And I've been told there's something coming to the old Kmart building. They won't tell me what, but they say that's going to be big. So, but yes, there's more businesses. The technology park exactly is growing. The Oscar building at Dell State, where they have all sorts of technology and different things that can be happening there, is an incubator for small businesses. So there's plenty of room for growth in Dover.
All right, stay tuned. Thank you so much, Kim. You can read Kim's story in Delaware Today magazine, which is on the stands. You can also read it online at delawaretoday.com.
State of play time, and we have lots to pick from, so let's bring in Stephanie Hansen from the law firm of Young, Conway, Stargett and Taylor. She's also a former Newcastle County president. We also have on set Michael Stafford, a lawyer and columnist. His work has been featured on MSNBC. The big question, Donald Trump, can he be stopped? And also in Delaware, will Republicans vote?
Well, I mean, can he be stopped? It's really come down to a Hobson's choice. I mean, you've got Donald Trump and apparently Ted Cruz. And, whether or not Trump is going to be able to amass a sufficient number of delegates in order to guarantee that he gets by or through a convention, I think it's still ambiguous. I mean, it would appear that he's not getting a plurality in any of these states that he's even winning in. And what will happen when Rubio eventually drops out of the race, which is probably probably right after Florida, I would imagine. He's getting no traction anyway. Same with John Kasich. In terms of here in Delaware, with Charlie, and I have enormous sympathy for Charlie. I think we all do. It's a very difficult situation. I mean, the Republican Party, and it just epitomizes what's happened to this party, to go from the DuPonts and the Castles and the Copelands to Donald Trump.
Yeah, because according to Charlie, you can't be for or against him unless you register.
He's in an impossible position.
But he's very smart in that he's now, like, his pitch to getting people to register Republican is, hey, if you want to have a voice in whether Donald Trump is going to be at least Delaware's Republican nominee, you need to be registered Republican. And there's a large group of people, the independents and people that are unaffiliated with either Democrat or Republican, that can't vote in the primary. They essentially have no voice in either primary. So I think it's a smart move on his part to actually get people registered in the Republican Party. Now, whether they'll stay registered after coming in and voting for Donald, or they'll go or voting for or against Donald, or they'll go back to becoming unaffiliated, I don't know. But I think it's a pretty smart move.
I just wonder who it's going to impact. Who is he looking to get back? Is he trying to lure back in the quote Markell Republicans who left to vote for Jack 2 cycles ago, or is he going to draw in independents who are more aligned with maybe the Tea Party and Donald Trump? I think people are more inclined to take the steps you need to take to change your registration when they're voting for someone or for something rather than against, So my guess would be he's going to get more Trump supporters in by making that kind of a pitch.
Donald or not Donald is, of course, one motive. But the other motive, I think the longer-term motive, is to get up the numbers of registered Republicans in Delaware. Yeah. And I think this is a way to do it.
Okay. Can Trump supporters, if you attract 5,000 Trump supporters, we'll call them the Trump Republicans, who come out of the woodwork from being registered independent, do those people help or hurt you? Can you build a majoritarian coalition with that as your base? I don't think the answer is yes in Delaware. Are those the kind of supporters who in primaries within the Republican Party down ticket are going to be supporting candidates who are more or less electable in jurisdictions here in Delaware? See, I think it could actually backfire. I think you're going to bring in people who, to the extent, again, that there's any movement, I don't think it's going to have a huge impact one way or the other, quite honestly. But to the extent that there is an impact, I think it's going to be attracting Trump supporters in from the ranks of independent or unaffiliated voters, and the values and the worldview that those individuals bring in with them, I think is actually detrimental to the success of the party. It's one thing to pump up your numbers, but at some point you have to get past 50. I don't think Trump supporters help the GOP in Delaware do that.
I think that Donald Trump is to the GOP in Delaware, GOP nationally, what Christine O'Donnell was to the GOP in Delaware. I see a lot of similarities where you've got, kind of a candidate that's very populist, kind of out there with the talk and getting people energized, and then to the point where, okay, you vote for them to make a statement, and then what did you do when you actually find that you've won? At how much damage have you done?
Okay.
Yeah.
Certainly a very interesting election season. It was so interesting. I guess you felt the need you created a Facebook status about this whole
Well, yeah, so
situation.
I did. I mean, Donald, one of the things that troubles me about Trump's candidacy, and it's true with a lot of the far right sort of far right-wing populism in general in America, tends to have real overtones of racism, homophobia, xenophobia, and certainly Donald, certainly with the xenophobia, but also with the other two. He has introduced a really dangerous element into our public discourse when you start to see the sorts of things. And look, I'm no fan of political correctness, and I get that can go too far. But at the same time, we now have major party serious candidates using the types of language that we haven't seen in public since like the days of George Wallace. And that's a major step backward, and I think we have to be concerned. He's creating social space for the expression of views that are pretty odious regarding race, regarding sexual identity, regarding national origin. And I think we all ought to take, sort of pause and think about that.
Well, we can definitely go on and on for an hour talking about Donald Trump, but we have the rest of the show to finish. Stephanie Hansen, thanks so much for being here. Michael Stafford, we appreciate it. As always, being a part of State of Play.
The color red, for people around the world, it has different meanings. Excitement, love, joy, and purity, to name a few. For the Rehoboth Art League, it means art. To shake up the winter months, the Art League challenged their members to work in red. First Experience stopped by to see the results.
This is an exhibit called Red, which is a members exhibition. We did a call for artists for all of our member artists, which we have about 700 member artists, and we had 60 artists submit works for this exhibition. Most work is two-dimensional, so it includes paintings, but also includes three-dimensional works. There are textile works, glass works, and even jewelry. Red is a really unique color, and it just has a lot of symbolism in art, symbolic of things that are exciting and passionate. It means different things in different societies. It means happiness in Japan. Some of them just use it in small parts of the painting that just take your eye right to it. When artists submit for these shows, it's done digitally, electronically, so you don't really get the whole impact. When they do come, there is an intensity that may not have been apparent on a digital image. It was an exhibition for artists just to use the color red. We just wanted to sort of give the Rehoboth Art League a jolt of energy midwinter. It just shows the wide variety of talent here at the Art League. We really try to make the members showcase exhibitions, really show the talent of all our members.
The exhibit Red runs through March 15th at the Rehoboth Art League. And while you're there, you can check out their pottery showcase of works also made by Rehoboth Art League artists, which also runs through March 15th. For more information, visit RehobothArtLeague.org. Now let's head over to Nichelle with some musical art.
Thanks, Mark. A music education can keep kids engaged in school and make it easier to develop language, math, and reasoning skills. That's why educators at the Albert Palmer Elementary School in Wilmington think the Drumline is a springboard to college for many of their kids.
My job is not to, to find or teach the next virtuoso.
Peter Anthony is the music teacher at Albert Palmer Elementary School. He's also the director of the school's Drumline.
You've been doing. When I say switch, you switch.
Anthony, who graduated with a degree in music from Temple University, didn't always see himself with a career in music.
In my situation, like I said, music was a fallback, and I just wound up in education because I wanted to be in, I thought I wanted to be in sports medicine. And it turned out that wasn't my calling, so I had music to fall back on as well.
Anthony wants to give his students that option too.
If I can show that, with these kids you might go through life and say, hey, you know what, I really enjoy music, maybe I should look into music education. Getting to college that way as well.
Palmer's Drumline is one of the school's most popular extracurricular activities.
This year is her first full year of Drumline. She likes it. She's very committed to it. She practices at home.
Anthony says practice is not to make perfect, it's to create discipline.
Passion before, precision If they have the passion behind it, they'll have enough dedication to get the precision to become a true professional.
All the practice helps too, because the selections the students perform are not child's play.
The music that we're doing is not easy. It's not at elementary level, and they know that, and they pride themselves on that.
Practice isn't the only requirement for Drumline participants.
And also it's a behavioral deterrent too, because they know that if they go to redirection, if they could get suspended, they're not going to be invited to rehearsals.
Parents especially appreciate that, because students learn how to deflect their aggression and harness it into a creative outlet.
It's fun playing the drums because I get to rock out and take out all my anger.
Anthony says he's not trying to teach the next Grammy winner. What he's doing is trying to get the students to embrace structure and enjoy music. And his methods appear to be working. Morgan Bonds credits him with her love of music.
He taught me all the basics that you need in middle school. And so ever since I sung with him in 5th grade, I just kept in contact with him.
The teen was so appreciative that after leaving Palmer, she reached out to thank him.
The reason I'm emailing you is because I wanted to say thanks. Without you, I would never thought of furthering my knowledge and career as a musician.
This is what happens when our little peacocks graduate and they continue to move on. They love Albert Palmer. They come back.
Whether these youngsters become professional musicians or not, one thing is for sure, their teachers and community are behind them, and they're expecting great things from them in the future.
Once upon a time, I had a parent say to me, "Why are you putting this, going to college, in my child's head?" And this is why. This is why. Kids are resilient. You find something that they have an interest in, it would change their lives.
The educators at Albert Palmer Elementary School say they are committed to excellence. They claim to be thinking outside the box for ways to engage both students and parents. Listening to these kids, you have to think the music will keep everyone engaged. We hope it works.
Next week on First, a report on Principal Boot Camp. It's a unique program aimed at tomorrow's school principals, and a look at the Delaware program hoping to eliminate deadly pedestrian accidents on those increasingly busy Delaware highways.
Yep, we'll look for those stories and more next time. That is First for this week. We thank you for watching. For Mark Eichman and Nichelle Polston, I'm Shirley Min. Have a great week.